Oklahoma, how much defensive improvement is it fair for me to expect? They were bad last year.
You get what you go after. We make success happen. Beating, playing to a standard.
We're going to find every way possible, every means possible to serve your heart, not your talent. We will employ an exciting, fast, explosive, and diverse offense combined with a physical, punishing, relentless, suffocating defense. That's real. That's relational, not transactional.
This is going to be a radically different looking team this year.
Woo, let's talk more about those Sooners and welcome in Collin Kennedy. He's back of Sooners Illustrated. We were talking in the office today about kind of drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit and getting excited. I mean, watching that gets you pretty excited for the upcoming season, right?
Let's do this first. So be honest with me.
Yeah.
How weird is it that we're doing this right now?
It's not weird. It's amazing.
I think it's pretty strange. I'm a little disoriented because I was thinking about this coming into the office. I'm used to talking to you and Blair over Slack and trying to convey to y'all, let's say, the controlled chaos that's going on behind the scenes, right? Usually I'm telling y'all, hey, teaching this college coach how to use Skype right now, give me 10-15, or like, this live commitment guy just hopped into his live stream for the third time. Hopefully we get a fourth. But I'll tell you this much, too. I'm really happy to be here. We're going to obviously drink a little bit of Kool-Aid today when it comes to Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
But I do have something to say as well. Blair Angulo showed up with a Hawaiian shirt. And for me personally, I brought out kind of like the Italian mobster look for our guy Adam Stanko. But like, wife, if you're watching this, Carly, I'm telling you, that's why I collected those Hawaiian shirts all those years. Because Blair Angulo just showed up in a Hawaiian shirt. But yeah, let's talk some Sooners. So
he's showing all of us up right now.
Man,
a lot of people though are watching. I saw a ton of people in the chat very excited to hear about the Oklahoma Sooners. It's been a lot of excitement in terms of their recruiting classes, but I want to ask about one guy in particular, and that's the #1 running back in 2024 in Taylor Tatum. I love the dynamic that you've got going on right now. Brent Venables in a fight for his services with the former head coach in Lincoln Riley. You gotta love that drama. But to Sooners fans right now, tell them, what's the latest with their recruitment of Tatum?
So, look, I'll tell you this. One thing I'm really proud of at Sooners Illustrated right now is Steve Wiltfong and I's ability to track the ever-changing timeline here. Because let's just say this one has been fun to track, right? It's been a little bit of a roller coaster. So here's what I can tell you. Going into the official visit, for those of you who don't know, this one was all USC. I mean, it was clear as day the Trojans had built a lead that was pretty difficult to take over. That being said, Oklahoma was fairly confident going into this thing they were going to be able to make up some ground. And a lot of that had to do with two things. Number one, DeMarco Murray and his relationship with Taylor Tatum's father. That paid off immediately. It's been something that's been brewing for a while now. But then on top of that, Oklahoma's ace card, if you will, was always Skip Johnson. I feel like he is the best in the country at handling dual sport athletes, and it's not just because of Kyler Murray. He's had a number of case studies that have played out that have allowed him to master this craft. And I'm here to tell you this right now. I don't think Oklahoma leads for Taylor Tatum right now unless Skip Johnson is at Oklahoma leading the baseball program. And add on to the fact that Reggie Willits, Oklahoma baseball's associate head coach, also nailed the recruiting pitch. They took him through essentially the hour-by-hour schedule of what Kyler Murray and a few others did at OU. And let me tell you something. That paid off with Taylor. That paid off with his family. And I think in the long run, it's why we're sitting here today, even remotely discussing Taylor Tatum in Oklahoma as a potential thing. And so here's the latest. I actually talked to somebody while we were live. Steve Wiltfong had that beautiful face reminding you to like the video.
Another reminder.
He was talking about some Oklahoma recruits. I actually got a call from a source, and I can just keep saying this. Taylor Tatum's in no rush to make a decision right now. And I would tell you this. It's also a little bit more wide open than I think a lot of people are realizing. He's battling back and forth. I still feel like USC has a chance. I still feel like Oklahoma's in the driver's seat. But this thing still needs to play out. It's going to be really fun to continue to follow.
This is the #1 running back in the class, and it sounds like baseball has a big effect on this. That's what's so great about these dual sport athletes is there's so much else going on that we might not know about. We got to transition to the defense, though. Notably struggled last season. You can tell that Brent Venables, obviously, that's his bread and butter, his side of the ball, and he is targeting that on the trail right now. The defensive line in particular, you've got guys like Williams and Nwaneri, David Stone, Jayden Jackson, all guys that the Sooners are going after. What's the latest in the pursuit of those prolific defenders?
So make no mistake about it, Oklahoma is trying to assemble one of the best defensive line hauls in program history before they hit the SEC. And Emily, that's why this is all Oklahoma fans want to talk about right now. And Taylor Tatum, Caden Durham, all these guys are out there, and everyone wants to talk defensive line recruiting. And I get it, because again, the move to the SEC is coming up. They are in position. Probably never realized before if the previous staff was currently in place, right? But that's a lot because Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis have done an outstanding job of selling the future. They've gone to places and rebuilt defenses. Todd Bates is one of the best developers of defensive line talent. And I think on top of that, Chavis, Bates, Brent Venables, a lot of these staff members are very good at building relationships. And that's what guys like Nigel Smith have told me. That's what guys like David Stone have continued to reiterate. And so here's what I'd say. Number one, real quick, David Stone, still really like where Oklahoma is there. He's priority one. But 1A is probably Williams Nwaneri, right? Steve touched on a little bit with the Georgia action. I still feel like Oklahoma's really confident there. And those are the two guys that Oklahoma really wants in this class. They want that interior defensive line presence. They want that edge guy. And they want those 2 5-stars to be the cornerstones of their SEC conference debut. But I also tell you this. They're in a better position than you may realize with a lot of other defensive linemen. So let's start here. Dominick McKinley, 5-star defensive lineman from Louisiana. You'd think LSU, Texas A&M, sure. And I actually talked to a couple people today that reiterated that. But OU's in a really good spot. And I'll tell you this, the soul mission at OU, really cool idea from Brent Venables and that staff led by a lot of guys that Caleb Kelly, for example, I know well, outstanding human beings in that office. They sell these guys on becoming better off the field. And I think that hit a note with McKinley and his family. And on top of that, you've got guys like Bates who have been outstanding at not only building that relationship, but identifying McKinley early, and that's paid off over the long run. And then you just go down the list. Nigel Smith, still like where OU is there. Wyatt Gilmore, I've got my crystal ball in. Jayden Jackson, IMG Academy guy they really like. The Zena Umeozulu stuff, Wilt Fong touched on earlier. I'll believe it when I see it, because his brother plays for Texas, folks. Like, we're still figuring that one out, but the list goes on and on. I think Oklahoma defensive line recruiting is in an incredible spot, and I think it's only going to get better as time goes on. They're doing some really special stuff on the line of scrimmage.
So we joked about drinking the Oklahoma Kool-Aid and the excitement, but you look at it, they had a top 10 class in 2022, top 5 in 2023. This cycle, though, just outside the top 40 with 8 commits. It's very early on in the process. We've mentioned that many times. It's just June, but you compile that with the results on the field last season. Just how much pressure is on this staff to keep up with momentum?
I mean, there's tons. I mean, guys, they're going to the SEC in a year, right? And they're recruiting at an outstanding level, just like you mentioned, Emily. But at the same time, at some point, the on-field results have to match the sell. And I think especially if you're going to try and land not only elite defensive line prospects, but offensive linemen, skill guys, just across the board, really. Some of these races that Oklahoma probably shouldn't be in right now, like a Terry Bussey off the top of my head, that has to eventually play out in a manner in which these players can see themselves in Norman. And so I think when you look at the staff, Oklahoma fans gave this staff a rebuild year. Let's make that clear. I don't know that a lot of people nationally know that Sooner fans are still bought in because, well, OU fans are eccentric, if we'll say, on the social media spheres, but look, at some point, you have to stop rebuilding and start playing things out in a manner in which you can actually see this program contending for national titles, because that's where these top prospects want to be. And so I think there's a lot of pressure right now, but as we'll get into, eventually that will subside. It's just they're in a lot of heated recruiting battles, and we haven't even touched on the fall yet. At some point, they're going to have to win these recruiting battles and games. So pressure creates diamonds. Let's see what kind of diamonds come out of Norman.
It's a time of transition right now. So there's pressure when it comes to that, but there's patience also, as it sounds like. 8 commits. Just said that. How do they bring that number up? What's ahead?
The month of July, right? So I'm going to tell you this right now. I laid out kind of very briefly for our members at Sooners Illustrated just a number of different timelines that I'm keeping an eye on going into next month. And while they do have a big potential commitment coming up tomorrow, and Xavier Robinson, James Jackson, and Josh Calloway for Sooners Illustrated will be on site, by the way. July is where potentially a lot of these dominoes fall, and I firmly believe July is the month in which you see Oklahoma take the rise in the rankings that they've needed for a long time. So you look at this. July 1st, Justin Denson, cornerback target, he's set to announce a decision. July 8th, Marcus Easley, the offensive tackle, and Devon Mitchell, the tight end, who is essentially Oklahoma's tight end target among like 3 or 4 classes. They really want that guy. He's also on July 8th with Easley. Casey Poe, priority offensive line target. He'll be around July 12th. And then you've got a number of other timelines that could easily play out. I think Wyatt Gilmore, if he makes a decision in favor of the Sooners, it'd be in July. Talk to a source, like I mentioned earlier, about Taylor Tatum. Still get the sense that thing's going to come sometime in July. And just again, there's so many other players that they're hoping to see announced over the next 30, 40 days. I think eventually you're going to see the Sooners do exactly what the fans have been hoping for. And so as long as you build that patience, right? July is the month you've been waiting for if you're an Oklahoma fan. And I firmly believe that that patience will eventually play off. Just give the staff like 30, 40 more days.
Okay. Sounds like we need to talk again after July then, because that's where all the action is. And also, of course, we need to talk again.
Well, yeah, I'd love to come back on if Stanko and Belcher let me back on. So we'll see what happens.
Those are the bosses. Before we say goodbye, though, I mean, Sooners Illustrated has been up and running for a few months now. You guys are obviously doing a ton of great work there. I love the Collins Corner is one of my favorite new reads. Loving it there. But tell the people that are watching right now what they can look forward to in the coming months.
Look, if you sign up, you get half off a VIP subscription, and you get Paramount Plus, and you get access to the entire 24/7 Sports Network. That means Steve Wiltfong, Brandon Huffman, those handsome faces, Blair Angulo, who's been awesome at Sooners Illustrated as well, all these national recruiting analysts, and then our outstanding team. You've got Tom Green, who just came in. James Jackson has been doing an outstanding job, not only covering football, but softball, women's basketball. My guy Josh Calloway is not only going to help continue to cover the team, but help us with the YouTube channel. And then you've got my ugly mug, who's doing my best. So I think now is no better time to sign up for Sooners Illustrated, folks. I mean, OU football recruiting is going to blow up, and then you got the season, and then eventually SEC play. So I would just go ahead and say sign up now. It'll pay off.
Yeah, if you can't tell by this segment, it's not slowing down in Norman. So definitely make sure that you are signed up. Collin, thank you so much for being here.